Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of Jacob's Ladder. I wish I was coming with happier news, but I'm glad that you're all here. I am your host, your friend, Jacob Israel. Tired of seeing the world the way it is. Tired of worrying when I see certain things happening in the news and worrying, oh my goodness, I hope this doesn't happen. So much so that I have to put little posts out, kind of put it out there in faith, and I have to kind of conceal my worry because I don't want anybody else to be worried. And it seems today we have a lot to worry about. But I'm telling you, my friends, it's okay. We're going to be all right, and this is all coming to an end. If you heard about this young, beautiful couple that just, they were... their lives were taken. Right outside a museum, a Jewish museum. They're connected to the embassy. They were both about to be married. This is a museum that just got extra funding for security because of an exhibit they were about to release to the public. We're going to get into all of this and a lot more. But we're going to go back a little bit and we're going to talk about, I had a kind of a strange dream on July 7th. I didn't write it down right away, but I told everybody I had a feeling something was about to happen in a museum like a church. I wrote down North Carolina, South Carolina, because my boss, my old boss, was headed there. Just kind of had a vibe that there was something about a museum. So I kept checking. But that's not even the freaky part. This poor couple that passed away outside of the Jewish museum in the capital, the young man, he'd just gotten himself an engagement ring. An engagement ring. So you have a picture here. Now, I want us to focus really on the symbolism of the story, because the sad thing is that people are so twisted and so hateful and so, everybody knows it all, that people are going to say that this story is, it's this or it's that, and the reason it happened is because of this or because of that. I wish I didn't have to talk in roundabout terms here on YouTube, but you'll see right now, even having the last name Israel, even though I'm not Jewish, it doesn't seem to bode very well for you. We're noticing today that there is, a push right now towards hating people of a different, we'll say like a faith or persuasion. Pointing fingers at people, calling them names because they believe a little bit differently. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. So after I had this dream just 10 months and 14 days ago, I started looking. But it wasn't until I saw Pope Leo being given a jersey of the Bears. You probably remember I just did a whole show about this. The show was about persecution coming to Israel. Or is persecution coming? And what I meant by the Israel was not the literal in the world, because we're not really focused about that, but we worry and concern ourselves of, all the Israelites out there, the people that are doing good in God's name. It's not about a literal place or a literal land, but it plays out in the natural so that we can understand the spiritual story. We had just done a show just recently on Operation Cinder. Cinder, which is the red hair dye that is used in brides' hair when they're about to get married. we talked about the symbolism of it. And here we have two faiths once again coming at each other from India and Pakistan. There's a story that's being told here, and I don't think people are listening. But I'm telling you, the time is coming when you're not going to be able to do this stuff anymore. Heavy hand is coming, I feel. A heavy hand. And why wouldn't it? You know, if people are going to leave a museum and then be taken out by a person whose name is Elias, of all things. Let me get into this show, because this stems from Pope Leo and the Bears jersey. You've got a lot of people here already. I welcome you. I'm thanking you. I'm not really too excited about this show because, you know, I was worried that there might be some kind of a shooting. I put this out on May 19th during my show, Is Persecution Coming? You see the two bears there. And in the story of 2 Kings, chapter 2, around verse 22, the 222, the prophet Elisha, after being called bald, well, 6 curses, 6 two bears on youths, 40 youths who were making fun of him, pointing fingers. We just did the whole show about this. We just talked about this. The reason we talked about it was because of my fear and my feeling that we might see some kind of persecution coming. And what that might mean would be possibly maybe some kind of shootings. You probably saw the show. If you didn't see the show, you should see it. It was just from, 3 days ago? On May 19th, here's a post that I put out, okay? And once again, take this for what it's worth. For me, it's heavy because I think to myself, you know, when I woke up and I saw the news of this poor young couple, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, it's a museum. Oh my goodness. I just told everybody about like shooting, and I was worried about it because in the past, when I started to see bears, I'd talk about this. I talk about the bears in scripture. David fought off a bear. The two bears that come out and maul. The bear is not. It's not a great thing. We just talked about the that last bear that has the 3 ribs in its mouth. We just talked about this from the book of Daniel, the 4 beasts. The whole show was about Pope Leo, this new rule, this new, you know, we'll say cross promotion of world ideas into a new world religious order. The whole show, I talked about this. And now here we are, 3 days later? And my May 19th fear, and I had to, you'll probably see, I even had to hide that word test because I didn't want anybody to think, you know, that I didn't want anybody to think negative things, you know. So what I wrote was, I wrote the Bears, okay? There's the picture of Pope Leo handing the jersey off. J.D. Vance meets Pope Leo at the Vatican, gives him the Chicago Bears jersey. In scripture, 2 bears maul the 42 youths for mocking the prophet. And then I explain the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. School, you can read the rest right there, threaten this. God forbid we are, and I wrote tested, because I wanted to put that word test in there so if it happened, I can respond to you. Sometimes I get these vibes. I see the bears and I think of market issues and I think of terrible tragedy. And then here we are, we have a terrible tragedy. Now this is where it gets even more strange and more freaky, to the point where it's like, if you're watching for this long and you're not thinking maybe there's something more to all of this stuff, maybe I need to really get my act together and start loving and forgiving, instead of like in the comment section saying, oh, this happened or this didn't happen, because everybody's going to have their opinion. Oh, it's them or it's these guys. This hate towards other people. I feel almost like it's been engineered, which is sad to even think that that would be a thing when you have celebrities like Kanye West and others. And you have viral videos of these songs and you see this stuff happening. This is something I've been warning about. You know, having the last name Israel. This is why I really do kind of need your support. I've felt it firsthand. I've gotten threats. A lot of people making fun of, you know, my big nose and other things. So foolish. But here I am to remind you that there is a God and that, well, he sort of tipped us off in more ways than you are going to want to admit by the end of the show, because I'm just touching the surface with this. The 30-year-old suspect, okay, his name was Elias. You know what Elias is? It's Elijah. Elias is the Greek version of Elijah. You know who Elijah is? Elijah is the one who handed his mantle off to Elisha. You know who Elisha is? Elisha is the one that brought the curse for being called Baldy. This is weird. This is really weird. You know why? Because this terrible 30-year-old guy who did this terrible thing, well, he held out a head, it's called a kefir. Let me see if I have a picture of this. Right here, okay? Elijah and Elias are the same person, okay? There you see 2 Kings chapter 2. And it came to pass, they went and they talked, and behold, there appeared a chariot of fire. Remember this one? And parted them. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him more and took hold of his own clothes, and he took upon himself the mantle of Elijah. Elisha takes over for Elijah. Elijah said, this is what you must do. And as he's doing it, from there, Elisha went to Bethel. This is the picture with the two bears. And as he was walking along the road, some youths came up to him from the town, yelled at him, go on, you baldy, bald head. And this guy pulls out a kefir. I think that's the word, kefeth, kefye. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's that thing on the bottom, which is a head cover. So a guy named Elias, I'm worried about some kind of a shooting outside of a Jewish museum. The story is in Israel. 2 Israeli embassy employees who are about to be married. It's strange. And he was screaming, of course, free. Free, free. And what we know about the shooter, Elias, is that the guy was not all there, but he had some pretty interesting positions that he held. He was not like he wasn't like a nobody. He had a job, and he worked as an oral history. Do you know what oral history is? It's how stories are passed down. And do you know, this is where the show gets super eerie to me, because I don't even know if it really sets in. Maybe this is my own fault for trying to make everybody laugh and take your medicine, right? Sweet going down, it gets bitter in the belly. This poor couple shot dead outside, right? This guy worked for history makers, oral history researcher. The victors tell the story, and it's passed down through oral history. That's how I got the story of Elisha, Elijah, and the bears and the youths. Very strange. Shocking, even. This event is shocking and triggering, and people are so divided that it's supercharging everybody, which I really hope is not like some kind of a plan. I just hope that it's some kind of a cosmic coincidence, because that's a horrible thing. Horrible thing that should get our attention, though, especially when the guy's from Chicago. The Pope's from Chicago. The Bears. Okay, this is going to sink in. But do you know what shock value is? Do you know that they have these programs where they trauma-based programs? Because when you're terrified or something, it's very easy to make you impressionable, because all your logical thinking is down, right? If your logical thinking is down and you're triggered and you're firing on all of, then it's very easy to be manipulated and controlled. Very easy to. That's why Jesus said to test the spirits to see if they be of God or not, right? How do we know if they're of God? Any thought that's, true, any thought that has good report. We're supposed to think on good things. Anything else, it's not God, right? So we got to be calm. But if we're out of our minds and we're triggered, very easy to be impressionable. There was a man named Stanley Milgram. You probably remember him. He ran a test. It's called the Milgram experiment. The Milgram experiment was where you would basically test how well people can, handle authority. In other words, how far can authority go? How far will you be willing to listen and obey authority? It's called the Stanley Milgram shock experiment. What I found strange is that when I looked at the names, and once again, this is all just a very strange coincidence for this poor couple. These young couple, their whole lives ahead of them. That's what the news was saying. Well, her last name is Milgram as well. It's Sarah Lynn Milgram. So when I saw Sarah Lynn Milgram, something inside of me said Stanley Milgram. And I thought, wow, that's strange. That's strange because here we have all of these weird connections, these weird little things. We have this shocking moment where I guarantee you, I have a feeling, right? Because how much more of this, do you want to live in fear? All the channels say that that's how that they make everybody so scared. So then everybody's like, okay, yeah, bring down the martial law all the time. People worry about this. They'd rather feel safe. I would rather feel safe, right? One of the things that's been constant on this channel, and how many people we got here? I haven't even asked for a like yet. Oh, we got a lot of people here. Will you do me a favor? Will you hit the like button? Will you do that for me and share this around and leave me a comment? Tell me what you think. To feel safe, you want to feel safe. So when you see experiments like the Milgram experiment and you see how far people are willing, like how far can a government go? How far until people will say no more, I don't want to do it. And they say, no, you need to shock this person. I don't want to shock this. No, you need to do it. And they do it. And then they turn it up a little bit. Do it. I don't want to do it, but do it. And they're causing harm. They're causing harm. Fear. It's a terrible thing. Joseph with the super chat. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the super chat, Joseph. Perfect love casts out all fear. Right. That's why we need to have perfect love. We need to love others. It's easier. It's easier. God's in control of all this stuff. So the young couple's names, they will be probably spit out in the news for the next whatever until something else happens. But there's something to this. The fact that, once again, here we go, it's connected to Operation Cinder, where here we have the same thing. I mean, they were engaged. These were they were about to be engaged. Operation Cinder. The reason why it even happened between Pakistan and India was because of the terrorist attack or the terrible attack on people that were getting engaged. It was the Valley of the Shepherds. That's where it went down, Kashmir, where it was a tourist place where people get married. Exactly 1 month earlier, and then here we have another engaged couple, and it's, once again, all of these religions. This has to stop. It's going to stop. It's going to stop. What do you think the Abraham Accords is about? All of this stuff. You look at it and you think to yourself, I understand what Jesus said when he goes, you know what? Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. I'm not of this world. I'm not going to do the things that they say. Really, really sad. Let me read this to you, what I wrote just a month earlier. I said the Indian government says it launched an attack on 9 sites called Operation Cinder. Cinder is the bright red color worn in the hair of married women. Elias held a bright red head covering. Alicia called the curse of the two bears that came down and mauled the youths because they called him bald. The guy's name is Elias. I was worried about something like this possibly happening. I did a whole show about his persecution coming, talking about Israel, and then here we have it. Here we have it. Now, did I know? Of course I didn't know. And how would anybody know? But I know that it's spiritually significant. Exactly 1 month before the soon-to-be engaged couple, the same thing happened on April 22nd. We have so many things happening so fast here on this channel. It's hard for me to keep up. I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life. I don't stop because there's always something that just has to get out to everybody. I just feel it. How could I not do this? I just interviewed, by the way, I want to let everybody know, I just interviewed Pastor Paul Begley. We talked about some kind of thing like this happening to be kind of a firecracker of starts, you know, where things may I was excited to edit that show today. I'm going to do it I'm going to try to air it tomorrow night. Pastor Paul Begley, if you haven't seen him, the guy, I got to tell you something, I finally got good at interviews, I think. I got it right this time. This Legend series is something that I really believe is going to be a thing. And thank you, Mary, for the super chat. I appreciate that. But this is, this had to be talked about today, you know? So how is it that, you know, I have this dream of a museum? How is it that right after that, you know, we start hearing about this? Let me just show you this thing with the Pope. And not to mention, okay, there's my video. Is persecution coming? You see that? That's the capital in the background. Look at the words. Meanie, tekel, upharsin. You've been weighed in the balance. That's it. Talking about the judgment that's coming. And then here it is. That's why the Pope, you see the bear behind him, the two bears. I just talked about this being like, I felt like this could be something. And there he is giving the Bears jersey to the Pope. And guess who just passed away? George Wendt. Guess what he's known for on Saturday Night Live? The Bears. And Cheers. The Bears. Very wild to me. All right, let me show you this because this is actually pretty interesting. This was this is the couple. Okay, and
with your name, and
make sure that
hopefully he just
tried to sign it.
Okay, and let me put this. Make sure that we are moved over. We are perfect. Make sure the volume's up. All right, take a listen to this.
with your name, and hopefully he just
tried to sign it with a pattern, but they got a little nervous.
Apparently,
I see.
Does succeed. Yeah, so I guess there's our kid right there. Ewan.
Okay.
I want to point out, take a look at her. I mean, she looks like she's dressed for a funeral. I mean, that's just odd to me. I mean, maybe that's, I mean, I believe she's Hindu, but it's odd to me.
You can probably imagine in the United States, people are extremely excited about you and everything.
Okay, thank you very much.
So you saw that right there, the quick shot. I want to play that again. What is that right there? Does anybody know what that is? Tell me in the live chat. Right next to the X, on X.
Unusual bronze sculpture. The piece is a fragile flower.
Thank you, and we'll pray for you.
Thank you for being here for the celebration.
Yes.
I'm sure we will.
The whole thing to me just really, I really feel like there is something very important for us to learn from this. Norm Peterson. Norm Peterson, George Wendt, gone. It's a bummer. But can you blame some people? You know, I have young men and young women really attacking. I have people that have been watching me for years, that some influencer here or there, I don't know if it was Ian Carroll or something on Rogan, because they really allowed that to be shouted from the rooftops. There's got to be a reason for it, don't you think? Because I'll tell you one thing, it's not going to be permitted for much longer. We're getting all the countries in a row here. I don't know if you've noticed. While everybody else is screaming, you know, worry about this and worry about World War III, I'm saying you better not be a person that's doing the wrong thing today. Now, do you know why they needed the extra security? Does anybody know? Has anybody followed this story? Wow, we got a lot of people here already. That encourages me. Because with the last name Israel, I am not exactly promoted. In fact, I've noticed that over this last year, it's been nutty. People are going to have a problem with me, right? Even if they don't know me, just because of the name. Isn't that crazy? Meanwhile, God calls his son Israel, Israel. We are the Israel of God. This is a good thing. The problem is you have a literal country that takes the name, just like people worried about the flag because it was a rainbow and God used a rainbow. If you take something, you could twist it to mean anything. That's oral history. And the guy who did this terrible deed, named after the prophet, who's connected to the story of the bears that maul the youths. The bears. I'm talking about the bears. And then the guy known for saying the bears dies? The shooter's from Chicago? The Pope's from Chicago, giving the bears with the Star of David right next to the Bears jersey? Is it like scripted? Or is this just, you got to tell me, or is it just coincidental? I honestly feel like I feel like I'm very alone in this world because it's difficult to express these things. Day in and day out, I come on here. It's like, oh, guess what? Remember how long ago? Do. Like the Danielle says. People care or they don't care. I know you do. Just get your house in order. Trust God. You got to trust God. Elijah and Elias, same person. Headgear, baldy. Man, it's terrible. But what does this mean? So, I can do what all the other talking heads can do, and I can tell you what this is going to mean. Now they're going to come after the two bears. To bear arms. To bear arms. The bears. They're going to come after that. Yeah. Give me some changes to it. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. You're going to hear me say that, and you're going to say, well, are you for? Are you against it? Well, I don't want to see an end to all killing. People are actually criticizing the fact that the President Trump had the president of South Africa? Elon standing back there. He's South African. They don't even allow him to do business in that country because the story goes that he's white. And that could be a reason. But the president played horrible, scary, terrible, hateful video in front of him. He did it with such, I felt like it was significant. It was like, you know what? You're going to go to the corner and we're going to put this to an end. This is not accepted anymore. Then you had people from The View, Whoopi Goldberg and all of them saying, oh, they're, conspiracy theories and all that stuff. President of the United States isn't going to be peddling conspiracy theories. I'm sure he's got a little bit of intelligence. Like a little bit, right? Sure, someone's going to say, that's AI video, President Trump. And you're going to worry about that anymore either because there's new rules about that too. Thanks to Melania and President Trump, they have a new deal that just went through. Guess what? All these fake AI stuff things, the videos, the terrible things where you're going to be prosecuted now if you do that. You put out something that's not true, you'll be prosecuted. Of course, the other thing that you worry about down the road is, could literal footage be called AI and then the person is shut up for seeing something and releasing a video and they're like, oh, it's AI, you're going to jail. There's always two ways of looking at it. Remember I told you what lion is coming for you? What Leo? Is it the lion of the tribe of Judah, or is it the lion seeking whom it may devour? All it is stuff to me, man. My goodness gracious. Is persecution coming? Let me tell you something. Persecution's here. All right? We're just starting to see, things in a different light. And until they change, I don't have a lot of hope for the people that are doing the wrong thing. I really don't. And, things are going to be the way they are on my channel. Listen, I beg you all the time to say, oh, please hit the like. Oh, please share. Oh, please repost and everything else. So some people get upset with it. I can't control you. I can't, as much as I would be like, hey, have I helped you? Will you help me? Will you? As much as I want to do that, I can't. I get disappointed. I know what God is showing us. I get these beautiful letters. People send me these wonderful letters. I just got one in the mail. By the way, you could always go snail mail me if you want to. I can't control things. You can't control things. You know what I can control? I can control how I react to stuff. So I don't get that Milgrammed experiment, shock value. You can have a choice to do the right thing. You have autonomy over your body, regardless of how much you're pressured into thinking you should be like this or like that. There are so many people that are so hateful today. I know people personally, like relatives that are so hateful, and can't even forgive me for using the last name Israel, which is my God-given right, So I got the first name, I got the latter, right? All of this stuff is coming to something, and I had a feeling that something was coming. That's why I put it out. And then here we have what? We have the guy named after the prophet that's connected to the bears. I got the bears where I'm worried about the bears in the shooting. We got the guy who's known for saying the bears ends up dying. Cheers. What does it matter? What is it? Is anybody going to pray tonight? How many people send me stuff and I ask them, I'm like, will you please pray? We stop sending me so much stuff and tell me about what you're learning. Tell me how God's inspired you. It's biblical. It's all biblical. 1 month between Operation Cinder and this. It's horrible. The world, the way it is. And now you got to worry about the AI because I don't know if you saw Google's latest, Veo, the new engine. It's all over. You can't get away from it on social media, by the way. And if you're on social media, will you follow me on X? It's at JacobIsrael71. I have a feeling that things are going to be rapidly changing, And I also have a feeling that I don't really need to worry so much. If you want to, if I've been encouraging to you, if you want to encourage others to check it out. I think God's going to do what God's going to do. And I'm just going to try to pay attention to the little things that I see and that little voice inside me that says, oh, so much so that you look at this post. I mean, I had to hide it. I hid it. I wrote tested. God forbid we are tested and it happens again. Well, they were youths. They weren't, children. Thank God. But Netanyahu's already weighed on this. President Trump's weighed on this. They're all weighing in on it. It's the end of things. It's the end of things. I think we're going to see an end to this. And I think we got just the leaders that are in charge right now that are going to do it. Is persecution coming? I don't know. But I do know that this is going to be an issue right here. Save this for last because this is the reason why they wanted the extra security. And isn't that funny that so many of you that probably love me or whatever, you're going to see something like that. There are going to be people that are going to say, oh, look what they were about to exhibit. That bothers me so much because everybody's welcome here because my God loves everyone. We're all where we are. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Right? Am I going to look at others and say you're not worthy of the Lord? I'm sorry, but we need to get over ourselves and stuff like that. We need to really start showing the love of God to others. Yeah, if you can't love the people that even hate you, you don't know God. That's a sobering thought. All right, so you tell me, you know. Guys from Chicago, the Bears, I say something's coming. I even have a dream about a museum. I even have a dream, it's fuzzy, but something about a museum with my old boss. They got a network in Israel, by the way. All right, I love all of you. If you want to support the channel, I really hope you do. Get yourself, you can get yourself some of the merch. It's in the description of the video. You can get yourself the Truly Free Home products if you want the toxic-free stuff. Use code Jacob, you get 30% off. Get a copy of my novel. All of these things, really, send me some mail, right? Just not checks because I have last name Israel's not my literal last name. It's the name that I was inspired to take, much like Jacob Israel before me. And you're all Israelites. So I think that we've all gone through some stuff long enough, and I think that maybe God's going to show his hand very shortly. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Love each other. Bye-bye. Sorry if I was a little down in the dumps. It was kind of a bummer of a show.